corrupts your farms.
Hello, this is Adam at NowGamer.
And this is Paul.
And we're reviewing Oddworld, New and Tasty. Now, some of you probably actually recognise this game. It is a remake of the classic PS1 game Abe's Oddysee. And what that means is a new engine, new graphics, new animations, new dialogue, lots of new things, hence the title, I think. It is still the same game that we played back in the PS1 era, so don't expect anything too revolutionary, but it's good overhaul of the original game.
So what kind of overhauls have they made exactly to the graphics? I mean, how good does it look now?
Well, you can see from the gameplay, it's completely overhauled from the original. The original was all pre-rendered. You only had a single screen, and each time you moved through the next area, it kind of faded across. So it was a swipe of sorts. It doesn't do that now. You can. It's a constant scrolling camera, so you move from left to right within an area. There are still doors you can pass through and things like that. But graphically, it's built in the Unity engine, but you wouldn't know it to look at it. It's actually really quite impressive. It's not the best looking game in the world, admittedly, and it probably won't really show off what the PS4 can do. But it is a good looking game, and anyone who's played the original will probably look at this and think, yeah, that looks spot on. There are some extra improvements with dialogue and audio, things like that. Abe will speak as he normally did. People who played it previously will know of game speak, and he had this function where you could talk to the other prisoners in the game to get them to follow you. It's part of the puzzles you had to solve. But yeah, there's a lot of new dialogue involved as well. And although early on he'll use the same lines, further on into the game he'll actually use a little bit more dialogue and extra different things. Even the sligs, which are the mechanical guards, if you will, with the guns, they're quite funny now. When you take control of them, they'll scream for their mummy and things like that. So it's quite good in that regard.
The original was rightly considered something of a classic, and I think part of the reason for that is it felt very innovative at the time. There was a lot of original ideas, like possessing sligs and stuff was like mind blowing at the time. But I mean, how does it hold up now that we've had so many years since the original game?
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea of a puzzle platformer isn't exactly unusual for people these days. But for me, Abe's Oddysee at the time and now even is a game that doesn't heavily favour either puzzles or platformers. It's as important that you learn and master both sides of the game. And in that regard, it is still quite original and fresh. You don't really get many games like Abe's Oddysee these days, and that's a shame because I think it's very unique in the way its gameplay is presented. It's all well and good to say that the brand new graphics make it worthwhile playing, but really, whether you've played it before or not, I think the originality of Abe's Oddysee does still shine, still work for the game, and I think that alone is a reason to play it, not just the overhauled graphics.
And in terms of the mechanics of the game, I mean, do they still feel the same? Does Abe still move in the same way and feel the same way when you're jumping about? Yeah,
well, movement is a little bit smoother and slicker. It's a lot quicker as well. But mechanically it does still feel exactly the same. The jumps are still the same kind of heavy weighted jumps that Abe used to do, and the new improvements like the overhauled graphics and the scrolling camera don't really change any of that. I think part of it is to try and forget how we remembered Abe's Oddysee and instead play it as it is now, because obviously nostalgia is all well and good, but ultimately it doesn't really change how this game is. There is a feature where you can play on classic mode, so you can play it with the same kind of health and jumps and even the scrolling swipes of the screens, if that's how you really want to play it. But I do think the new improvements are really worth playing this game for.
Now, some people are a bit concerned about the price. They seem to think £18 is a bit much for a PS1 game with better graphics. I mean, that sounds alright to me to play as Abe's Oddysee again, but I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, it's a mixture really. Abe's Oddysee obviously is a fantastic game, and this is still pretty much the same game, just as you say, with better graphics. But the effort that's gone into making this game really and for that reason alone I think it is worth the £18. You still get a lot of content out of it, so you're going to get good 8 to 10 hours of gameplay out of that anyway, and I think that's worth £18 even for a game that, as you say, is a classic. And I think that regardless of whether you've played it before on the PS1 or whether you've never played it before, I think this is a game that you should play. And I don't think £18 is too unreasonable for this game. It really is one of the best games on the PSN store.
I didn't even know I had a destiny, so get me out of here!